So how do you get hedge accounting? Well, let's take a look at what resources we have in our textbook. So this is, let's go to the Spiceland book, right? This is back in Appendix A. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not a, and you'll get this as you go through the semester with me, I'm not a big fan of textbooks. So accounting for derivatives this is the beginning of the appendices, right? This is the very beginning. This is Appendix A. Accounting for derivatives. They tell you how to account for derivatives. It goes through earnings. Unless, of course, you qualify, right? Unless you qualify because it uses a hedge, right? This paragraph starts talking about hedge accounting, and it doesn't give you any details on how you qualify for hedge accounting. It is completely inadequate. It goes on to talk about the different models of hedge accounting, which we will also talk about. And I strongly recommend you look at this because it is a generalist view of these particular models. And this is in the Spiceland book in Appendix A. We go to the Christensen book. We have a little bit more. This is talking about managing international risks. This is on page 562 with forwards. And they talk about derivatives designated as hedges. Listen, there are plenty of derivatives designated hedges. The issue is, do they qualify for hedge accounting? And that's a special treatment. So you can always have everything designated as a hedge, but will it get hedge accounting is a different issue. And in this particular textbook, they talk about the derivative to qualify as for the derivative instrument to qualify as a hedging instrument, it must meet the following two criteria. And I'm sorry, these are not the two criterion for it to qualify as a hedging instrument. So the way this is written is also wholly inadequate and, in my opinion, misleading. Let's go to the actual literature. Let's go to the codification. We'll go to broad transactions. We'll go to derivatives and hedging, and we'll take a look at 815-20, and we'll take a look at what is considered for hedge accounting. So let's take a look at 25, paragraph 25, and let's look at the recognition. Okay? This sets forth the criterion to be met for designated hedging instruments and hedged items to qualify for the different kinds of hedge accounting. These are the four things that have to be done, not two. These are the four things for the hedging instrument and the hedged item, not just the hedging instrument and the hedged item. All four of these have to be met. There has to be formal documentation and designation at the inception of the hedge relationship. The hedged item or hedged transactions, this is the risk that you are focused on. Those have to be eligible, hedged items and hedged transactions. Your hedging instrument must also be designated as eligible. And there has to be a discussion about hedge effectiveness and a measurement of hedge effectiveness. These are the four criteria. You have to have all four of these things in order for this to be considered hedge accounting. So, first thing we want to do is, what is eligible as a hedged item? So we'll go down a little bit past and make sure you're focused on the pending content. So for public companies, this is already in place. For non-public companies, it's for the fiscal years beginning after December 16th, 2020. So by the time you graduate, all companies will be following this literature. They will be following the pending content not the current content. So you always want to be focused on what is going to be the content that you're going to be faced when you are in professional practice. So let's go down to looking at the eligibility of hedged items and transactions. Right? So the criterion, hedged item and transaction criteria for both, the hedged items involve interest rate risk, or there's a normal purchase and sale contract as a hedged item or a transaction. So you can hedge a normal purchase and sale contract and different portions of the same asset as a hedged item. And then it goes on talking about hedged items involving interest rate risk, benchmark interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the things to make sure that what you're dealing with are appropriate hedged items. What is the hedged risk for both a cash flow hedge, a fair value hedge, as well as a hedge of a foreign position. So, you have to identify what that hedged risk is up front. So let's go back over to our little writing here. So the first thing we've got to do, you have to identify and qualify the hedged item or risk, whatever that is. That is one of the steps. You have to identify and make sure that it is qualified. And we go to the literature, 815-20-25, to do that. The second step is we have to make sure we identify and qualify the hedging instrument. And in order for you to be in this literature, in order for you to be in 815, this hedging instrument has to be a derivative. If it's not a derivative, you're not in this literature. You're somewhere else, right? So it has to be a derivative. The next thing we've got to do is we have to document upfront and on an ongoing basis hedge effectiveness. And the last thing we have to do is this relationship and the methods of effectiveness, methods of measuring must be documented in advance. You have to do all four of these things before you get the magic that is hedge accounting. We'll talk a little bit about what is the magic of hedge accounting later on. But right now we want to go through each one of these line items and make sure we're comfortable with what is the hedged item or risk, the hedging instrument, how do we measure effectiveness, what is hedge effectiveness, and then the process of documenting the relationship up front and what happens if we have to do what happens is we have to stop hedging and redocument.